We saw how to navigate around the file system, and we also saw many options of the ls command. I hope you had a chance to explore some of those options. Next, we will look at how to display file contents without using VI. You can always look at the contents of a file using VI, but there are other commands that where you don't have to go into a text editor. You're just executing commands and you see the contents of a file. And then we'll finish up with how to remove files. So the main command that we'll start with is the cat command. It stands for concatenate. And by default, if you just say cat and then name of a file, it displays the contents of that file. So let's take a quick look at that first. So I'm going to clear all of this. Okay, now it looks nice, and do ls. And we have this file called xyz, and if you do an ls -l xyz, you'll get some information like we saw in the last video, and it's in the notes that this is a regular file. This stands for read and write permissions. There's one link to it. The owner and the group are both UWRF. It has a file size of 221 bytes. In this case, it's 221 bytes. And this was the date of creation. Okay. And so now here's the kind of thing you can do. The 221 tells us it's not that big a file. So if you say cat xyz, there are the contents of that file. Okay, and then we can also cat this other file called backup file, because I'm not sure, long name, and there it is. So just by using cat, you can get a quick look at short files. This works really well. Alright, so you can, cat was really made to concatenate files. So for example, I can cat this file and the xyz file together. So I did cat, name of the first file, name of the second file, and this just lists both of those files together. This is actually, I just happen to know that this is the first file, which is backup file because I'm not sure, and the rest of it I believe is the xyz file. There's no way to tell where the files, where one file ends and the other one starts, so you just have to know it. And that's usually the way you want to use cat. You just cat as many files as you want, all the files, for example in the current folder, and put it into one big file. You can do that. And that's what cat was really set up for. But for now, we will just use it to cat the contents of a file. Cat xyz. There are other commands, for example, tail. And you can specify how many. Okay, so tail xyz will list the last, I think by default, the last 10 lines. It skipped a couple of the lines at the beginning. You can do tail -2 xyz, so you're saying tail with the option -2 and the name of the file. It lists just the last 2 lines of the file. Of course, there's also a command called head, which is the head of the file, xyz, which will, I think by default, list the first 10 lines, so it skipped these 2 lines, the very last 2 lines, because it has 12 lines in it. You can also say head -2 xyz to list just the first 2 lines of the file. So if you want a quick peek at just the very top of the file, in case it's a huge file that just scrolls endlessly, use head. Or if you want to look at the very bottom of the file, use tail. Okay, so the book talks about how you can use the cat command usually for displaying small files. If you have a large file, it'll scroll and scroll and scroll, and you can stop the scrolling by pressing Control S for stop scrolling. And once you've stopped it, you can also press Control Q. I like to think of it as Control Continue for continue, and that allows you to continue scrolling. It just so turns out computers these days are so fast, so much faster than when these instructions were printed, that no matter how big a file is, you cannot really, they scroll by so fast you cannot even stop the scrolling process, because computers are just so fast compared to 10, 15 years ago. Okay, the book also talks about printing. It talks about the LP command, which I'm not sure. Let me just check if LP exists on this system. Oh yeah, it does. And I think you might have trouble using LP. The book also talks about the LPR command, and I think, although I haven't tried it, I think the LPR command works best if you are in the lab. That is South Hall. So if you have a text file, you can try LP and then just name of the file, hit enter, and that should work. If that doesn't work, try LPR. So there's a bunch of different options. I'm not going to go over them. On Linux, we have the BSD command LPR. It's Linux. Part of it, yes, it's true, it is based on the BSD system, which is what the Mac OS X operating system is based on too, partially. And so they both use the LPR command. And you can have options for a specific printer if you have more than one printer and so on. I believe this will work in the lab. So try out some of these things. Don't waste too much paper. You have to pay for paper, plus it's not renewable. Right. Okay, so that's so much for printing. The last thing that we want to look at is deleting files. Now, you want to be very careful about removing files. Turns out, on this live DVD that you have, if you boot it up, sure, you can remove anything, reboot the system, and everything will pop back up. It's fine. If, however, you install Linux on an actual system or a virtual machine, and you remove stuff, turns out the remove does not give you any warning, and when a file is deleted, it is deleted for good. Pretty much that's the case. Sure, there are some fancy forensic software that you can use to recover files, but they are very expensive, because you might still find traces of your file still on a magnetic drive or the flash file system. Might be there, but keep this in mind. Unlike most of these other commands, remove is very permanent, I guess I would say. If you remove a file, it's gone. There is no trash that you can go back into and try to recover files from. There just isn't. Not if you use command line commands like rm for remove. Okay, so that's it. Try out some of these things. Of course, your live CD, you can experiment endlessly, unless, of course, you're writing a lab report, and then if you remove that, well, all your work is gone. So try out this without using on some fake files, stuff like that. So create some files using VI, remove. It's always good to use the -i option for interactive, and it'll ask you. So if you say remove -i, if you're not sure, always use remove with -i. And then it'll ask you, remove. Do you really want to remove first.c? And then it won't do it if you type in something other than y for yes. So remove -i, name of the file, you can have a path. That is safe. It'll ask to check and make sure that you really do want to remove it. And you hit y, you're saying, I'm sure I want to remove this. Okay? So try this. Remove -R is also something you want to try. This is even more dangerous. The most dangerous command you can have is remove space -RF. Very dangerous. It says it will not ask if you are sure you want to remove something. It'll just forcefully remove everything regardless. Very dangerous command. Do not use it. Use your power for good and not evil. This is definitely one of those cases. You can use remove dir to remove directories. You can use remove -R, that is for recursively removing everything. That is directories, files, everything. Ordinarily, you cannot use remove to remove directories, but if you use -R, you can remove directories. So read this, definitely be sure you know what you're doing. The -R should be used sparingly, only when it's absolutely necessary. You can get into a lot of trouble. I've had that feeling many times. I removed something I didn't intend to remove, and then it's just that sickly feeling. What have I done? So you don't want to get into that. You don't want to have that feeling. Okay, so before using remove, make sure it's not 2 o'clock in the morning and you're starting a major delete operation. You're trying to clean up files. Don't do that. Just maybe wait till the morning before you use RM. And make sure you know which file you want to delete, what the contents of that file is. You might want to make backups, things like that. Okay, so always think twice before pressing return to complete the RM command. Alright, so apart from that cautionary note on using the RM command, have fun trying different things in Linux. And you can rest assured that you can't do any damage really with your live CD unless you have a flash drive plugged in too. So remove your flash drive, unmount it, get rid of it, then you can remove anything you want and you're safe. All you have to do is reboot and you're all set. Okay, so for a live CD or live DVD, you can experiment away, you can try all kinds of stuff, try removing things, make the system crash, no problem. But if you have Linux installed on a hard drive or virtual machine, you want to be careful. Alright.